Yeah. So this is another loaded question.
I love it.
But
Let's go.
what is the best way to get started as a beginner? The $1 million question.
So, Mike, why don't you kick us off there? As being the younger of the two, I'd love to hear somebody's thoughts who isn't that far removed from the beginner phase. So when did you start? Like, when did you officially start taking pictures that you would, if somebody asked and you'd have to tell them? Like, for me, it was probably 2010. I'd say that's when I started.
Like if somebody says, "What do you do?" and you say, "I'm a photographer."
Yeah, how long you been doing it? Well, I've been doing, like, when would you say you started?
I had my first DSLR in 2017.
Okay.
I would say late 2018 was when I started, I feel like, identifying as like, I shoot photos.
So, and I would say in the couple of years that we have worked together, I've seen your progression just skyrocket.
Yeah, I mean, you were there from the beginning.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to ask, and I didn't mean anything negative by, you're not that far removed, but the truth is you're really not that far removed from a technical, beginner, if you will. So
no, I mean, 2018, I had never hit record on a video. I've never switched my camera to video mode before.
Right.
Like I was shooting in all aperture priority, had not made the jump to manual, like that was not 3 years ago. I mean, that was not long ago at all.
So Mike, if you could, let's maybe boil this down because it is such a loaded question. Why don't we narrow it down to 3 things that somebody can really apply? Like if you're a beginner and, you really want to get started, what would you say, are the 3 biggest areas that you should really invest your time?
1, find someone who is further down the road than you are. That, I will say, was probably the biggest help to me, which was was finding someone who has been there, done that, who is further down the road than I was. Like they've started.
Yeah, I wish I had taken that. I sort of tried and kind of got rejected a little bit in the Charleston wedding world. It's a pretty closed circle. And I should have pushed on some avenues outside of that. But to your point, I wish that I had somebody, even 2 years down the road, or even one, to be honest, or a few months, just somebody who has that experience to say, no. Yeah. Tweak this, do that.
Sure.
So
when I started, I found James, who was doing it professionally full time. That was what he was doing. And then I had another friend, Adam, who was doing it as a hobbyist. Like he had a 60D, he had prime lenses, like he had good gear, but it was a hobby. So I feel like that was actually a really good balance. Like somebody who was doing it every single day, who was professional, and one person who just is like knows enough. So like I felt like I had a good bridge of knowledge. Like I had somebody who could explain everything, break it all the way down, every technicality, and somebody who was just like, I know how to shoot in aperture priority mode. And I'm like, amazing. So finding somebody further down the road is I would say do that before you buy any gear. Like YouTube, internet is great, but it cannot replace finding somebody who you can go have a cup of coffee with and talk through all the things.
Yeah, and I would say don't be afraid of, on that note, don't be afraid to have your work critiqued, if you will.
Be very open to constructive criticism.
Obviously, find somebody who can do it properly. Like there's one thing of bashing and critique. Those are very different things. Like find somebody who can actually give you some helpful information. Yeah. And I also wouldn't go to like a fine art photographer and say, "Can you critique my wedding thing?" Like it's just they're too far removed, right? So have a little bit of sense.
Find somebody whose work you like. Like find somebody not just somebody who like you think will be good. Find somebody who like, oh yeah, like I like the way they shoot. Like I want them to give me advice. Like find somebody whose work that you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're happy to field any questions or take a look at stuff with you. So, don't be afraid to ask us some questions as well. So I'm going to kind of boil that down to a mentor. Get a photography mentor, if you will, who can really help you. Yeah, and can really help you kind of accelerate in ways that you just couldn't do without the time. Obviously, you should put in your own time, but it's so much faster to be able to just bring something to somebody and say, "Can you help me here?" Yeah,
and what he just said, put in your own time. It's just like learning an instrument. Like, don't just when you go meet with your mentor, don't just think about it then. Like, and only practice then. But like in your own time, like you just just soak in YouTube videos, soak in Creative Live, masterclass,
you should be
whatever.
Meeting with your mentor with results in hand.
Yes, like
saying,
absorbing content all
direction.
the time.
Yeah.
When I was getting into it, I mean, that is all I thought about, all I watched. All, you know, I mean, that was it. Like I was all in. That was it. So yeah, but so the first thing I would do, find a good mentor. That's the summary of all that. Find a good mentor, someone further down the road.
Number 2?
Yeah. So the second one I would say is, you know, don't blow all your money on gear. You know, it is one, you know, you don't really know enough to buy what you probably really need. So don't just go throwing money at the problem, because it's probably not going to get you what you need. You're going to be disappointed. I would just say find a reasonable budget. That is totally different for every single person. You know, don't be afraid to buy an older camera. Anything 2016 and on is probably like overkill for anything that you're going to do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, so don't be afraid just to go on eBay and, you know, make sure it's in good condition, the whole thing. But, you know, don't be afraid to buy older gear. You know, and I will say, even though you may not be spending a lot of money, think about how long you can shoot with it. You know, there is a difference between, we're not going to go into it now, but crop sensors and full frame. And even when you're buying lenses, there's a difference between prime and zoom. So, you know, try to be conscious of gear that's still going to be good 2 or 3 years from now. I did not really do that very well at first, but I kind of just was lucky and stumbled into some good gear. But I will say, you know, try to think about that, you know, what's going to be good a few years from now.
And I would say, you know, if you want any specifics, you know, most camera manufacturers now, it's really hard to go wrong.
They're all producing good stuff.
It's kind of like Mac, PC, Coke, Pepsi. Like once you're inside of a platform, cost-wise, it's just better to stay in there
100%.
To an extent, right? I've just been a long-time Canon person. That's just what I started with.
And because you were Canon, like I was Canon.
Sure.
That's
I have no problem with Nikon, Sony. I actually would love to switch to a Sony for certain reasons. That said, I don't think the type of camera matters.
No.
But I would say, if you can, get one that you can change the lenses on.
Yes. Try to, you know, I would say, yes, that's a good point. If you're trying to get into professional photography or, you know, take better images, DSLR is the move. Don't, you know, point and shoots are good, but
DSLR, mirrorless, whatever. Just if you can swap the lens on it, do that. And I will say, from a budget standpoint, one thing that wasn't really around when I started was a lot of rental platforms.
Yeah,
there's companies like borrowlenses.com, Lens Rentals, who I use. Yep. You could try just about whatever you want. Yeah, you know, and that's one of the coolest things about where we kind of are now. As technology gets better, it also gets cheaper. And, you know, everybody rides that hype. Oh, the new model's out. So the used market is flooded with great cameras at good prices. Yeah. So, you know, I would start there. You know, most reputable sources, if you don't like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or eBay, go to an actual reputable vendor like B&H Photo. They have a used department.
Yep. Adorama.
They have a great used department.
Yep. Even Lens Rentals.
K&H. Yeah. They have some great stuff. Or KEH. So it'd be really difficult for you not to find something a few years old that can get you going. Yeah. I would say if you had to put $1 to it, if you've got 1,000, that opens up your options a ton. Yeah. But you can really get in for $300.
I was gonna say, for 1,000, you could probably get something somewhat newer with an entry-level lens that is for a beginner, it's amazing. And even for a lot of people, I mean, you can ride that for a while.
Oh, absolutely. I think I had my original 50D. I used that body for 2 years. Yeah. And only got rid of it, but just because it didn't have the low light that I needed. And I wanted to move to full frame, and we'll go down that rabbit hole later. But yeah, from a gear standpoint, to Mike's point, don't think that you have to have thousands and thousands of dollars just to start, because that's the thing is the other thing about just starting is you're going to figure out not only what style you like, but what lenses and other equipment you need to do that style. Sure. And that's really going to determine your monetary spend. You know, some people only need one lens and one body, and they can do their entire style. Yeah. You know, if you end up wanting to be a headshot photographer, you can get one lens, one body, and then you just invest in lighting. Yeah. You know, so it really depends on what you end up gravitating towards. But get a body that lets you put different lenses on it and just start there. You decide
100%.
which one, but if you can take the lens off and put a different one on, that's where I would lean. The whole gear thing, that's always going to be a rabbit hole. We're happy to answer any questions. So hit us up on Instagram if you want to dive in a little bit further. So mentor 1, gear number 2, and then what would you say would be number 3?
Just shooting in proper light. I feel like, that's a big part of it. Don't overthink it when you first, start out. Like just find, a good, and if it's in your house, like find, your dining room that has a bunch of windows, like, just shoot, if you're shooting products, like, or you're shooting food photography, just find an area with good light. If you're shooting a portrait, try to shoot it towards sunset or sunrise. Don't just shoot in the settings that just make it the easiest, just so you can kind of, get started and see some good results from, right from the start. And that'll kind of help you feel more inspired to keep doing it.
Yeah, and the lighting thing's kind of twofold, right? You've got the technical side of how does light play into what your equipment can do. But the other thing is if you learn different lighting scenarios, right? To your point, where do I need to put my people or my subject at sunset, at sunrise, midday? If I'm in a room and there's window light coming in from the side, what angle do I need to be? Like if you learn the lighting side of things and how that just affects an image, I think I would definitely start there as a beginner. Is just say, okay, I've got my camera, I've got my lens, I've talked with my mentor. Now I just need to learn, how does the light shape everything that my camera actually sees?
And I feel like, kind of something else that plays into, all of these categories, but it just is, it's just shoot, just go shoot, just, like try to shoot in, in good lighting situations. But honestly, at the end of the day, just the best way you're going to learn. And then the only way to get better is just to get your reps and just shoot as often as you can.
How much do you think that you shot when you had your body and your kit lens, and obviously being young and little responsibilities, right? To take it into your own personal situation. But
I was in a situation, again, I was young, no responsibility. I was in a situation with my job too. I mean, I was shooting, I would say I shot pretty much every day about whatever I wanted to. And so, I was shooting.
How many hours do you think you put in a day?
Hours, I would say about 4 hours. I would say at the end of the day, it was some kind of shooting.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest contributing factors to how fast you were able to progress and not even just like learning, but just the quality of images that you take. I mean, from the stuff you started with to the stuff now, like now you're in this refinement period, right? Where as a beginner, you're like, I'm just going to shoot and see what happens. And for me, I think that I made a conscious effort. I was a little different. I had a job and some milder responsibilities than now, but I made a conscious effort to shoot at least 1 hour per day. Yeah, and that doesn't mean like every second of every hour you're just pressing the shutter button. Like just go outside for 1 hour and do it at different times of the day. But that for me was huge of just, saying, okay, at some point I'm not going to be a beginner anymore, but I'm still, I still have so much to learn.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying I'd add that on as like the fourth point is just shooting. Honestly, that kind of overrides it all. Like, find the mentor, but fair. Just whatever gear you have, I would say the mentor is huge.
So forget everything we said. Just get something. And
but definitely just shooting all the time, and then editing as well. That's obviously like shoot, but then just pull it onto your computer and see what it looks like. See, experiment with colors.
And I would say, to that point, if you don't have, if you're not in a position to spend money on an editor, most computers come with something. I don't know what Windows version is.
Or for that matter, your phone
comes
absolutely. With most,
Yeah, that's a great point too. Just put them on your phone, and a lot of times you can really dial it in camera. Your camera also has color and saturation settings, and you can make your own profile and go do a bunch of back and forth and figure out what you like in camera. You don't have to shoot in RAW. JPEG is just fine in certain situations. So. I probably wouldn't even disregard JPEG and RAW for now. Yeah. We'll go down that later.
Yeah, maybe cut that. Yeah. But so again, those being the 4 big points. The find a mentor. Don't blow your budget on gear. Try to shoot in ideal lighting conditions just so you can see those results, and then just shoot all the time.
Absolutely,
I think that's what sums it all up.
Well, those are some really great questions. I want to thank everybody who submitted and answered the call there. If you have any other questions, be sure to follow us on our Instagram at Good Grain Podcast. We post polls there somewhat regularly, and love these types of episodes where we get to kind of answer your questions. And be sure to follow us there as well, so that you know when this. And be sure to follow us there as well, so you know when all the latest episodes air. So again, thanks for anybody who listened. I'm James. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
And
we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.